everybody. This is Duke Buchanan here. I'm glad you're all here tonight. It's going to be a fun night. It's going to be fast-paced. We're going to sell some cakes. We're going to raise some money for our students. And I hope that you're ready because, look, we got 36 beautiful cakes. First and foremost, would you just give a hand for the people that made these cakes? Yes. We have got some real beautiful cakes. There are some really fancy cakes. There are some really delicious-looking cakes. They're all delicious, I'm sure. And then, of course, we've got some Glenda On cakes. And so, you know, I'm sure. Well, let me go ahead and pray for us, and then we're going to begin. And let me just tell you, we've got 36 cakes, and we got more than 36 people in here. But we're going to sell all these cakes tonight. And if you got to buy 2 cakes or 3 cakes, you do it. I'm going to buy a cake probably. Anyway, you just do it, and you bid, and you support these students. We need to send them to camp. Let me pray for us. Heavenly Father, thank you, God, so much for these people in this room. Thank you, Lord, for the people who are watching online. Thank you for the people who made these cakes. Father, for us to be able to come and raise money for them to go to camp. This is not something we are selling. We are not selling for profit these cakes. We are selling these cakes so that we may raise money to send these students to youth camp. And we pray that you would bless this night, help these students raise this money, bless the people who are giving the money, and I pray that you would be glorified by what we do and how our students are led when they go to camp. We pray that you bless this night, bless these things. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, let's begin. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we got lots of cakes, and I'm going to start over here on the left side. And thank you very much. We've got the screen up here. Can you point over here, boys? Now, let me tell you what. We're going to start on this side right here with Miss Andrea Duncan's cake, or actually, it's a blueberry pie. Blueberry pie. If you like blueberry pie, you know what? That's a good idea. Miss Andrea is going to give instructions about buying a cake. You know, I'm from Texas, so you know.
I'm the bossy one. Okay, here's what you're going to do, y'all. We have several ladies up here who are, when you purchase a cake, you raise your hand, and they're going to bring you a card with all the information about the cake, what ingredients are in the cake, who made the cake. That way, if we've got some food allergies, we can make sure that you're covered there. They're going to bring you, if you'll keep your hand up, and so that they can bring you that card, and on that card is going to be what you kind of agreed to pay for it. And then in the back is Jenny Trahan. And she's going to be collecting money, and she has all that you need back there. That way we can keep tax information, all that kind of stuff straight. And then the ladies are going to be helping you get your cake. So they'll take your card from you after you've paid for it, and they'll come up here and help you get your cake. Also, we have some really great baked goods in the back. You do not want to miss that. If you're not here to buy, spend $1,000 on a cake, which I'm sure everybody in this room is, but if you're not, and you would like to just buy something to pass the time or keep you full so you can wait for your cake, that's in the back. Those are $3. Kim, remember, that's just a donation suggestion. And it's very difficult for us to make change. So if you only have a 50, maybe you'd really think a cupcake is worth $50. So anyway, enjoy, and if you need any extra help, I'll be running around to help anyway.
Would you give it up for Miss Andrea, because she did great. She helped put all this together, and I'm not the most organized, and so she really helped me with that. But, yeah, please don't forget that we are probably going to have to take a little break, 10-minute break in the middle when we get halfway through. And I'm going to send you back there, get some refreshments, get some coffee, some lemonade in the back, and please give generously. But all of those things back there look delicious, along with all of these cakes here. Okay, so we're going to start with Miss Andrea's another question. Miss? Yes. There is a line item online if you want to go and pay online called Student Missions, and then you can go online and pay that. If you would rather use your credit card that's on file, that's perfectly appropriate. You can give more money that way. So, all right, we're going to get started right now with this blueberry pie over here. I'm going to start the bidding at $15. Would you give me 15 right here? 20. Let me hear 20. Would you give me $20 for it? Would you bid 20 for it? Anybody? Would you give $20 in the back? 25. Let me get 25 in the back. 30. Let me get 30. $30? Would you give me 30 right here? Would you give me $40? Let's jump it up to 40. Would you give me 40? Would you bid 40? Would you give me 44? $40 over here, a 45. Let me get 50. Would you give me $50? $50 in the back right here for the blueberry pie. 50. Let me go $60. Would you give me 50? $60. Would you bid 60? Would you give me 60? Would you bid 50 for it? $60 right here in the back. 60. I got 60. I want 70. Would you go 70? 70 in the back right here. $70. I got $70. Would you go 75? Would you go $80? $70 right now is the current bid. Would you go 75? $75 for the blueberry. $75 right here. 75, 80. Would you go $80? Would you go $80 for the blueberry pie? Anybody going $80? Would you give me $80 for it? 75 right here in the back, Mr. Hutto. 75 going once, twice. Sold, Mr. Hutto in the back. Mr. Buddy Hutto, thank you so much, sir. Let's move right along, move right along. Some of these cakes are mystery cakes because they don't have names on them, but that's all right. What is this? Who is this? Miss Elizabeth LeBeer. It's a cream cheese, butter. Oh, it's a chess cake. I love chess. I play chess all the time. It's a beautiful chess cake, and listen, it looks delicious, I'll tell you that much. Starting the bidding at $15. Would you give me $15 for it? Miss LeBeer has made this cake. It's called a chess cake. Miss LeBeer, what is this cake made of? Cream cheese, butter, eggs, things of that nature. It sounds delicious. Would you give me $15 for it? Would you go 15 in the back, Mr. Kevin McMore? $20 right here, Mr. Ted. $20. Would you give me 25 for it? Would you give me $25? 30. Would you go 30? Would you go 30? Would you give me 30? Would you bid 30? There's 30, Mr. Ted. 35, 40, 40, 40, 40, $35 right here. $30, Mr. Ted. $30 bid. $30 is what I have. I need 35. Would you give me 35 for it? 35 right here in the back. 40. The bid, current bid's 35. Would you give me 35? Would you give me 40? 35's current bid. Got 35, need 40. Got 35, need 40. Would you give me 40? Would you bid $40? $40 money bid right here. $40 money bid. We got 40, 45, 45, 50. Well, let me get $50. Would you give me $50 for it? 45 is the current bid. Would you give me 50 right here? 50. Let's go up to 60. Would you give me 60? $60. 50 is what we got. We got 50. Would you give me 60? $65, $60, $60, 65. I jumped it. $50 is what we have. Would you give 60? Got him, $60. Would you give me 65? $65, 65. Would you give me 65? 60. Would you bid 65? Would you give 65? Would you bid 65 for it? $60 is what we have. $65. Going once? Would you give 65 for it? 60 is the one we have. Sold, Mr. Ted, for $60. Mr. Ted Borowski. Moving right along. We're moving great, y'all. We got lots of cakes left. Oh, it's a coconut cake by Miss Jenny Trahan. She's the one that just came up here and told you about the online bidding. You could bid, well, not bid online, but you can pay for your cake online. So she's back there. She's useful. She's very organized. She needs to sell this cake, ladies and gentlemen. This is a coconut cake by Miss Jenny Trahan. I'm going to start the bidding at $20. Would you give me $20 for a coconut? Dwayne Wiles right here in the front, $20. Would you give me $30? Would you give me 30? 20 is it? $25? $25 in the back, would you give me 30? Bidding $30, 30 right here in the front, 35, 35, 40, 40, 40, would you give me 45? 45 right here, current bid's 40, would you give me 45? $45, would you bid 45? Would you give me 45 for it? 45 in the back with Miss Cassie Gonzalez, now it's 50. You lost your chance, you got to go 50 now. $50 right there in the back, 60. $60, would you go 65? 65, would you, 70, would you go 75? $70 is the current bid. 75. You went 75. She upped her own bid to $75. She went 75. Would you go 80? No 80. Anybody else going $80, Mr. Ted Borowski? 85, 90. 90. $100 in the back, Miss Kathy. $100. 120. Would you give me 120? No, he doesn't want it at 120. You're going to go 120. Your current bid is $100. Would you like to raise it? 105. $102.50. Going once. Anybody going to beat $100? $100, 105, 105 going once, going twice. Sold to Miss Jenny Trahan, to Miss Kathy Gonzalez, Miss Jenny Trahan's cake. Woo! Coconut cake. All right, ladies, next. What's next? Hold that cake up because that thing is beautiful. It's got blueberries all over the top of it. It looks as if it's been strategically placed in a symmetrical order, and it's beautiful. What kind of cake is this? Shh. shut it. All right. Hannah Trahan made this. Oh, this is this is Hannah Trahan right here, ladies and gentlemen. And she's made this cake, okay? And it looks like it is all-purpose flour, eggs, buttermilk, butter. Oh, this is the name of the cake. There we go. Lemon blueberry layer cake. Okay, lemon blueberry layer cake. I'm going to start the bidding at $25. Would you give me $25? $25 in the back. $50 from Mr. Ted Borowski. Going up $55. Would you give me $60? Going from $50 to $60. Current bid $60. $60. Let me go $70. Would you go $70? $70. Would you go $80? $80. Would you give me $80? Would you bid $80 for it? $100, Mr. B.J. Trahan for his own daughter's cake. That's nepotism. Okay, $100. Would you give me $120? $120 for it. Would you give me $120 for the blueberry cake? $115. $105. $105. Would you give me $105? $105, Mr. Ted Borowski. $120, sir. $120. $120 with right there. $125. $125. $130. $130. $150. $150. Would you go $160? No, $150. $150. Anybody want to go $155? 50, 50, 50, 55, 55, 50, 55. Would you go 55? 150, Mr. Matt. No, you don't want me to say your name. Okay. 155. 160. 165. 170. That's your daughter. 170. $200, Mr. BJ. $200. Would you give me $220? Would you give me $220 for your own daughter's cake? She worked so hard. By the way, there's another Trahan girl's cake over here. He's going to have to spend a lot of money. $220. $200, $205. Can I hear $205? Can I get $205 for the cake? Blueberry layer cake. $200 going once. This gentleman right over here, he doesn't want his name to be said. But I do know his name. $205. $205. $205 right there. $205. $210. $210. $220. $220. He's at $210. You're at $205. Go $220. $220. $225. He's cut off. $220 going once. Going twice. To Miss Trahan. $225. Now that is a good family right there, and I'll bet you that's a delicious cake. Wonderful buy. Way to rack up the price, Mac. Oh, sorry. This is a cream cheese pound cake. Zoom in on this, fellas. Not me. The cake. There. Listen, this is a cream cheese pound cake, and it looks absolutely scrumptious. And we're going to bid on this cake starting at $20. Would you give me $20? $20 for it, 20. He said $50, jumps it up to $50. Can I get $60? Would you give me $60, Mr. Buddy? $70, would you give me $70? Would you give me $70? $80, would you give me, I got 70, I need 80. $80, Mr. Buddy Hutto. Let's go $100. $100 right here. We got 100, Mr. Hutto. We got 120. 120. 125. I'm going to go up a little bit now. 125. We got 120, 125, 125. $120 is the current bid. 120, 120. Would you give me 125 for it? Would you bid 25? 125. 1 1/4. 125. Going once. Going twice. Sold to Mr. Buddy Hutto for 120. $120. Hey, we're moving. We're scooting. What is this? White chocolate cheesecake tart. Oh, my goodness. White chocolate cheesecake tart. We're going to start the bidding. Ladies and gentlemen, at $25. Would you give me $25 for it? White, 25 right here, Miss LeBeer. 25, can I go 30? Can I go 30? Would you give me 30? Would you bid 30? Would you give me 30 for it? 30, 30, 30, 30, $30. I mean, $30 in the back. Would you go 35? $35, Mr. Baraxi. 30. Would you give 40? $40. $45. Would you give me 50? $50. Would you go 60? $60. 65, 65, 70. 70, 70, 70, 65 right here, Mr. McLemore. $75. Would you bid 75? Would you give me 75? Would you bid 75? Would you $75? Would you give me 80? Would you give me 80? Would you bid 80? Would you give me 80 for it? $80, 90. Would you go 90? Would you bid 90? $90, I got 80. I want 90. Would you give me 90? Would you bid 90? Would you give me 90 for it? $90, would you bid 90? Would you give me 90 for it? I'll big it, 90. A $90, 90. Current bid is 80. Going once, twice. Current bid is 80 on the delicious cake over here. Sold to Mr. McLemore for $80. $80. I'll tell you, y'all, it's hot up here, and I don't know how they do this in Texas. Wait, I am from Texas. Okay. Whatever. All right. Sydney Edmondson. I can't speak anymore. Now, these are interesting little, what are these? Is Sydney here? They're a fruit tart something. They're just fruit tarts. Okay, fruit tarts. Well, we're going to start the fruit tarts off at $10. There's two of them, by the way, and they're both included. We're going to start the bidding off at $10. Would you give me $10? Would you $10, Mr. Otis? Would you give me 15? $15, 20. Would you give me 20? Would you bid 20 right there? 25. 25, 30. Would you give me, 30 right here, Miss LeBeer. 35, would you give me 35 right there? 35 current bids, 35. Would you give me 40? Would you bid 40? Would you give me 40 for it? A big it, what, $40 right there. $40, would you give me $45? 45, anybody? 45 right here, Mr. Dion. $45, 50 right here, Mr. Otis. $55, would you give me 55? Bid 55, would you bid 55? Would you give 55 for it? Would you give me 55 right there? $55 is the current bid. $60, would you give me 65? 60 is the current bid. Would you give me 65? Would you bid 65 right here? 70, would you give me $70? Would you give me $70 for it? Would you bid 70 for it? Would you give me 70 for it? $70, 65 is the current bid. $70, would you go 80? Would you give me $80? Would you bid $80 right there for me? Would you give me $80? 75 is the current bid. 70 is the current bid. My apologies. 70 is the current bid. Would you give me 80? 75, would you bid 75 for it? 75 right there. Would you give me 80? Would you give me 80? Would you bid 80? Would you give me 80 for it? Would you bid me 80? $80, 75 is the current bid. Going once. $85. Oh, wait, no, $80. Sorry, 75 was the current bid. $80, would you give me 85? $5 more, Grady. 85. 80 is the current bid. Would you go 85? Would you bid 85? Would you give 85 for it? Going once, $80. Going twice. Sold to Mr. Barnes for $80. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you a little story. This church is historical with its cake auctions, and I have absolute faith in you tonight to beat every record that's ever been hit at these cake auctions, all right? I think the number was some odd $6,000 last time. I think we can beat that tonight. I think we can beat it tonight. Next up, Mr. Bud Whiteside. Is that correct? Mr. Bud Whiteside has a cheesecake. It's got pecans, eggs, milk, soy, wheat, nuts, things like that. Christian, you can't bid on this. He's allergic to nuts. All right. But here we go. I'm going to start the bidding off with this beautiful multi-flavored cheesecake. It looks so good, and I'm going to start the bidding off at $20. Would you give me $20 for it? $20, Mr. Bud Whiteside. Would you give me $20 for it? 20 right here. Would you give me 25? $25, 20 is the dollar. 20 is the current bid. Would you give me 25? Would you bid 25? Give me 25. Would you give me $25? Would you give me 30? $30, 35. Would you give me $35? 35. 35. Would you give me 35? $35, 30 is the $35, 30. $40 right here. 45. 45. Would you give me 45? $45. Would you bid 20? 45. 50. Would you give me 50? It's $55. 50 is the curtain bid. $50 money bid. Would you give me $50? $55. $50 money bid going once. $50 money bid going twice. $55. Would you give me 60, Mr. Buddy? Okay, 65. Would you give me 65? 60 is the current bid. Would you give me 65? 65 for it. 65, 70. Would you give me 70 for it? $70. $70, 75. $75, 70 is the current bid. Would anybody else give me $75? $75, would you give me 75 for it? We got a current bid for $70 for this beautiful cheesecake. $70 going once, twice. Sold to Mr. Hutto. $70. Moving right along, ladies and gentlemen. Another cake, or actually this is an orange cake with orange frosting, milk, eggs, flour, sugar, orange, and vanilla by Sydney Edmondson. I'm going to start the bidding at $20. Do you see that? Can you zoom in on that, boys? Zoom in on that. Look at that. Whoo, it looks good. All right, $20. Would you give me $20? Would you bid 20? Would you give me 24? Would you bid me $20? $20 money bid. Would you go $20 right here, Pastor Wade? 25. Would you bid 25? $25 money bid. Would you give me 25? Would you bid 25? Would you give me 25 for it? Anybody right here? 25. $20 going once, twice. $25. Would you give me 30? $30. Would you give me 35? 35. Would you give me 40? $40. 35 is the current money bid. Would you give me 40? Would you give me $40? 35 right. Dion's going to raise his own price to $50. $50 right there. Would you give me 55? $55 for the money bid. 55 right here. Would you give me 60? $60 money bid. Would you give me 60? Would you bid 60? Would you give me 60 for it? $60. 55 is the current bid. Would you give me 60? $60 money bid. 55 is the current bid. Would you give 60? $60 money bid. Would you give 60? 55 is the current bid. Would you give 60? Would you give me 60 going once? Twice? Sold, Mr. Ted Borowski, for $55. $55. Thank you all very much for bidding on these cakes. We will continue. We're going to get about halfway through, and I'm going to take a little reprieve for my voice. $55. This is Miss Margaret Bragg Apple Cinnamon Coffee Cake. If you are a coffee lover, this cake is the cake for you. An apple cinnamon coffee cake. I'm going to start the bidding. It comes with the recipe. With the recipe. I'm going to start the bidding off at $35. Would you give me $35? Would you give me $35? 40? Would you give me $45? 35 is the current bid. Would you give me 30? 45? Would you give me 45? Would you bid 45? It's a cinnamon coffee cake. 35 is the current bid. Would you give me 40? 40. 40 right here. Would you give me 45? $45 money bid. Would you give me 45? 40 is the current bid. Would you give me 45? $45 for the cinnamon coffee cake. $45. 40 right here. $45. 50. We've got 50 right here. Would you give me 60? 60 in the back right there. Would you go 65? Would you go 65? Would you 65, 70? Would you bid 75? $70. Would you give me 70? 65 is the current money bid. Would you go 70? $70 right here. 65 is the current money bid. Would you go 70? Would you give 70? Would you give 70? Would you bid 70 for it? $70. 65 going once. Did you bid 65? $70 right here. $70 right here. Would you go 75? 75. $75 right here. Would you go 80? 80 right here. Would you go 90? 85. Would you go 85, bump your own price up? No, don't. I'm not asking you to do it. Some people have done it. $80 is the current money bid. Would you go 85? Bid for 85. Would you give me 85 for it? Anybody want to go $85? Would you go 90? $85 is the current money bid. $90. Would you go 95? Would you bid 95? Anybody on 95? Would you give me $95 for it? $90 is the current money bid. Would you give me 95? Would you bid 95? Would you give me 95 for it? Going once. Beautiful coffee cake. If you love coffee, it will make your day. I promise you. Current money bid is $90. Would you go 95? Would you bid 95? Would you give me 95 for it? Would you bid 95 right now? Going once, twice. Sold for $90. Would you give the Cooey's that cake when it comes to it? All right, let's continue right along. This is made by our very own chef, East Brent chef, by Miss Sherry Barnes. It is a Texas sheet cake. Woo, I'll tell you what, that looks scrumptious. I'm going to start the bidding at $25. Would you give me 25? $25. Would you give me 30? $30. Would you give me $30? Would you bid 30 for it? $30 right here. 35. Would you go 35? 40. Would you give me 40? We got 35 current. $40 right here. 45. Would you give me 45? Bid 45. For 40. 45 right here. 50. Would you give me 50? 45 is the current bid. 45. Would you give me 50? $50. Would you give me 50? 45 is the current bid. 45, 50 right here. 55. Would you give me $55? $55. 55 right here, Mr. McLemore. $60. Current money bid. $60. Would you give me $70? $70 right here. Would you give me 80? $70 is the current money bid. Would you go 80? Would you bid 80? Would you give me 80 for it? Would you give me 80 for it? But 75 is the current bid. $80. Would $80 90? Would you give me $90? 90, 100, 100, 100. $90 is the current money bid. Would you give me $100? $100, 120. Would you give me 120? Would you bid 120? Would you bid $200, Mr. Bert Pete? $200. Would you give me 205? 201. $200 and 1 penny. Going once, twice sold, Mr. Bert Pete. $200. $200. We are flying through these cakes, ladies and gentlemen. Do not miss your chance to bid on one of these beautiful cakes. You're not going to regret it. You're helping send students to camp, and you're going to get a delicious treat to take home with you. Oh, my good gracious. This is a birthday cake by our very own Miss Glenda On. And these cakes do go for a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start the bidding off at $75. $75, would you give me 100? 75, you got 4 quarters. 4 quarters, $100, would you give me 125? 125, would you give me 150? $150, we got 125 as the current bid. $150, would you give me 150? 135, 135, 135. Current bid is 125. 150. 150, would you give me 175? $150 is the current bid. Would you give me 175? 175 bid 175. Would you give me 75 for it? 1 3/4. 150. $150. Would you give me 175? It's a Glenda On cake. There are a few more. I'm not going to tell you how many, but there are a few more Glenda On cakes. But this one's a birthday cake. That's a flavor, isn't it? Right? Birthday cake is a certain flavor. So it's a birthday cake. You could use this for your birthday, for your grandchildren, or for your children, or for your cousin, or your neighbor. Who knows? But you could have a birthday cake made by Glenda On. $150 is the current bid. Would you go 155? $155, would you bid 155? Would you give me 155? Going once, twice, sold to Mr. Kevin McLemore. For $150, Glenda On. Moving on. Brownie Layer Cake by Christy Riles. This is the pastor's wife, ladies and gentlemen. No pressure. No pressure. All right, we're going to start the bidding at $50. Would you give me $50 for Miss Riles' cake? $50. What kind of cake was it? Brownie Layer Cake. $50, Mr. Ted Borowski. Would you give me 60? Would you bid 64? Give me $60. Would you give me 60? Current bid is 50. Would you go 60? $60 right here. Would you go 65? Would you give me 65? Would you bid 65 for it? 65 right here. 70. Would you give me $70? $70. 65 is the current bid. Would you go 70? Would you bid 70 right here? $75. 75 is 80. 85. 85, 90. 95. $100, Mr. Buddy Hutto. 100, would you go 110? $110. $110, would you go 120? 120, 110 is the current bid. Would you bid 120? 130. 130, 125. 125, 130. Would you go 130? Would you bid 130, 135? 135, 135, 135, 130 is the current bid. Would you give $135 for this beautiful brownie cake made by our very own pastor's wife, Miss Christy Riles? 120. Would you go 120 with it? Would you bid 110? No, I'm kidding. She did a great solo on Easter, Rachel said, so she deserves $135. $135 is the current bid. Who bid that bid? Mr. Buddy Hutto made $130, and it was $135 to you. $135, $130 is the current bid. Going once, twice. Sold for $130 to Mr. Buddy Hutto. Are you going to give all these cakes away? Oh, my goodness, y'all. Okay, this is, my goodness. Briley, get your checkbook. This is from Stephanie Bowman. It is a fudge brownie cheesecake. My goodness. A fudge, are we zoomed in on this? Yes, a fudge brownie cheesecake. We're going to start the bidding off at $25. Who give me $25? Would you bid $25? $25. Let me give $100 right here, Mr. Grady Cooper. $100. Would you give me $120? Would you bid $120 for it? This is your wife, Caleb. Your dad's bidding. Okay, $130, $130, $140, $140. Would you want it? Then we got a phone bid. $140, $150. Would you give $150? Would you bid $150? $150, $160. Would you give $170? $170. $160 has already been bid. $170. $170 right there. $180. $170 on the phone bidder. He's bidding his own bid. $170 was his. $180 is next. Up against you? Okay. So you're not the same people. You're bidding on against each other. Okay, so $180, $170, $180. $180. $190, sir. The love of your life. $190. $180 is his bid. $190. Anybody else? $190. $180 from the phone bidder. Would you give me $190? $190 for the fudge. $190 right here. $200. $200. $200. $220. $220. You got the money. $200. $220. $220. $210. $210. $220 to you. $220 to your father. The apple of his eye. Oh, well, she's the apple of his eye, but he's bidding on your cake, so. $220 is the bid to you. If you want it, $220, would you give me $220? $220 if he wants it for his precious little baby girl. $210 current. Does anybody else want to go? $210, $220. Anybody else want to bid $220? Well, $210 is the current bid. $220. $220. $210. Tell him it's going once. $220. $220, $230. Would you give me $230? $230. 10 more measly dollars. Would you give me $230? $230. $230 is the current bid. No, $220 is the current bid. Would you go $230? Would you get $230? Would you bid $230? $230 is your bid if you want it. $220 currently. Would you go $230? Would you? $225, would you go $230? $225 is the current bid. Would you go $230? Would you bid $230? $230. $225 going once. $225 going twice. $230, would you go? You know what? We're going to bump it up. Would you go $245? Would you bid $245 for it? Would you give me $245 for this beautiful fudge cheesecake? $245. $230 is the current bid. Would you go $245? $235, would you give? $235, would you give? $240. $240, $240. $235 to $240 if you want to bid. $240. He's giving up on his baby girl. $235. $230. Hey, tell him you still love him because it's helping send your daughter to camp. So $235 going once. Twice sold to Mr. Grady Cooper. Give it up. What a great bid. And he can bid on another cake. It's coming up. He can bid on another cake. Where are we? $235, Mr. Grady Cooper. Thank you. Ooh. 1 second. Oh. I just tried to drink my microphone. Pastor Wade, you want to say something? I'm spitting on you. All right. Here we go. Coconut, Glenda. Oh, this is another Glenda On cake, yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Glenda On. $10 right here, Mr. Pastor Wade. Let's bump that up to $35. You know what? We'll go $35.50. Would you give me $50, Billy? $50, $50, $60. Would you go $70? $70? $70. We got $60, $70. Would you go $80? $80, $90. $90 to $100. $100, $100 right here. We've got a $100 bid. Let me get up here so everybody can see me. We've got $100 right here. Would you go $110? Would you bid $110? $110, $120. Would you give $120 for it? Would you give $130? Would you give $130? $130. Would you bid me $130? Would you go $140? $140. $140. Glenda On's coconut cake. Current bid is $130. Would you give me $140? $140, would you give $150? $150, would you bid $150? Would you give $150? $150, would you give $170? Nick, $170. $170, would you give me $180? Would you give me $180? $180, $170 is the current bid. Would you give me $180? Would you bid $180? Would you give me $180 for it? $180, $200. $200 for Miss Glenda On's cake. Miss Glenda, will you stand up? Will you stand up and just give her a hand? This lady can cook some cakes, y'all. She can bake some cakes. Look at that sweet face. $200. $200, Mr. Nick. Would you give $210? $210, $210. Going once, $200. $210, would you go $220? $220, $210. Mr. Sweeney, $220. Would you do it, Nick? We got the same name, brother. No, wait, I'm Duke. Never mind. I'm Duke. $220, $230. I'm going to jump it to $240. $220, would you give $240? $240, Mr. Sweeney, $250. $250, $250, $270. $270, $250's current bid, $270. $270, $260. $260, $270. Would you give $270? $260's current bid, $270. $280. $280, $270 is the current bid, $275. $275. $275. Would you give me $275? Would you bid $275? Sherry is upping her own bid to $300. She is wanting this coconut cake. $300. Would you give $325? Would you bid $325? Would you give me $325 for it? Would you bid $325? $325, would you give $325? $300 going once. $300 going twice. $305. $305. $305 going once. That'd be your bid if you wanted $305, but it's $300 right now. $300 going three times, it's sold. Miss Sherry Pete, give her a hand. $300 for a coconut cake. Hey, save room, because there's more Glenda On cakes. And I'm going to come back to this one. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special cake tonight. I'd like Brianna to come up here and stand next to it. I want you to get a real zoomed in shot of this cake. This is the hamburger cake, and I'm going to have Brianna tell you a little bit about it. I'm wiping the mic off. What is in it? What's in it? And how long did it take you to cook it?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
There's Rice Krispie cereal with box cake mix, eggs, buttermilk, fondant, and dairy.
Christian, you can't have this cake either, buddy. How long did it take you to make this cake? And how many times did you try to make it? So she made it one time, and she said, it's not good enough. I'm going to do it again. And she made another one, and this is the second rendition, right? And so, y'all, she has worked a lot of time on this cake. First off, give her a hand. That's a beautiful cake right there. Good job, Brianna. Thank you. I'm going to start the bidding off at $100. $150. Would you give me $150? Would you bid $150 for it? We got a $100. Listen, y'all, this is a hamburger cake. It looks like a hamburger. $150 right here. Would you give me $175? $175, $175, $200. Would you give me $200, $200, $225 right here? $225. Would you give me $250? $250 for the hamburger cake. $250, $225 going once. $250, $250 right here, $265. $265, $250 is the current bid. Would you go $265? $275, would you go $300? $300, would you go $325? Give me $325, would you bid $325? $300 is the current bid. $350, would you give me $375? $375, would you give me $400? $400 for this cake. $375 is the current bid. Would you give me $400? Need $400, would you give me $400? Bid $400 for it. $420, $420, $450. $450, we need $475. Would you give me $75? Would you give me $170? $475, $475. Would you give me $475? $475, $500. $500 for this burger cake. Took this young lady 27 hours to make this cake. Slaved over a hot stove. No, it didn't take that long. Their mother's yelling at me. I can't lie in church. It didn't take that long. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a bid for $500. $525. $525, would you give me 25? 5 1/4. 5 1/4, would you give me 5 1/2? 5 1/2, would you give me 5 3/4? 5 3/4, would you give me 5 3/4? 5 1/2, $550 is the current bid, would you give me 5 75? 5 75, would you give me 575? 575, $600 for the burger cake, would you give me 600? 6 pickup sticks, would you give me $600? $600, would you give me 625? 625. $625 for your precious baby girl. $625, $650. Would you go $650 right here? $650, $675. Would you go $650 is the current bid? Current dollar money bid. Would you give me $675? $700, would you give me $750? $750, would you give me $775? $775, make it a clean 8, and it's yours, probably. $775, would you get $75? Would you bid $75 for it? $775. $775, $800. Would you go $800? $800, Mr. Grayson made a bid. That's a legal bid. $800. Hey, Sherry said that he had bidding abilities. He could bid. $800. $825 is the current bid. Would you give me 25? 8 1/4. Would you give me $825? $825, would you bid? $825. $825, would you give? $825, would you bid? $825 for it? A big bid. $825, big bid. $825, $825. Come on. $800 is the current money bid. Let me tell you something. You're not going to miss out on this cake. You're going to love it. $800 going once. $800 going twice. Last chance. Sold to Mr. Grady Cooper and Mr. Grayson. Good job, Grayson. $800 for that cake. You ought to feel very proud of yourself, Brianna. Beautiful, beautiful cake. Y'all, we've got another great one. We're going to skip that and go to this one. Miss Sherry Posey made this beautiful cake. What's this? Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. Don't let me forget to come back to this, by the way. Okay? Miss Sherry Posey makes a white cake. It's got beautiful strawberries and blueberries, and it is a beautiful cake. Zoom in on that right there. Look at that cake, y'all. It might be small, but it packs a punch in the taste factors. All right? I'm going to start the bidding at $25. Would you give me 25, 25, 50? Would you give me $50 right here, Miss LeBeer? $50. Would you give me 75? 75, 100. 100. $100 right here. Would you give me 125? 125, 125, 125. Would you give me 125 right there? 150. $150. Would you give me 150 right here? Now, if you raise your hand, you're paying for that cake, young lady. $150. 175. 175. 200. 275. I'm sorry, 225. I tried to get you there. Almost got you. 225. Would you give me 225? Would you bid 225 for it? $225 going once. $200 going twice. $225 last chance. Ladies and gentlemen, $200. Sold. $200. Gonzalez. The Gonzalez family. All right. Okay, I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to come back to this. You want to do it? Y'all want to do this one now? All right. Okay, y'all. Where's Miss Leah Grosso? Will you come up here, Leah? Leah, come on up here. Come on down. This is a Dr. Pepper chocolate cake, unicorn theme, gluten-free, made by Miss Leah Grosso. Come here, Miss Leah. Give Miss Leah a hand. We've got some wonderfully talented young ladies who have worked really hard to make these cakes. And how did you come up with the theme of this cake? Do you love unicorns?
No.
I love unicorns. What's wrong with unicorns?
Not real.
Oh, they're not real. But you know what? Just because unicorns aren't real doesn't mean they don't taste real good. Okay, so let me tell you, Miss Leah, give her a hand. She's wonderful. She worked really hard on this cake. Good job. We're going to sell this cake right now, the unicorn cake. Let me start the bidding at $100. $100, let me get $125. $125, $150. Would you give me $150, $175? $175, she's going to keep her hand up. $200. $225, $250. $275. $275, $300 right here. $325. $325, $350, $375, $375, $385, $400, $425. Okay. All right, here we go. $425, $450, $475, $475, $500, $525, $525, $550, $575, $600, $625, $650, $800, $825, $850, $850, $825, $850, $1,000, $1,000. $1,000. Okay, hold on, let me breathe. $1,025. Time out. Ladies and gentlemen, unicorns are popular. Leah, you did a great job picking the theme. You may not think they're real, but that money is real, and it is going to be a real blessing to those students. $1,025, $1,025, $1,050, $1,050, $1,025, $1,050, $1,075, $175, $1,075, $1,200, $1,200, $1,300, $1,300, $1,350, $1,300, $1,350. $1,500. $1,500. Would you go $1,600? Everly, put your hand down, sweetheart. $1,550. $1,600. That's a lot of money. $1,550. That's, you've got it, Everly. I think you've got it. Anyone else want to go $1,575? Ladies and gentlemen, sold for $1,550 to Miss Everly. My goodness, Leah. Where'd you go? Look at you, $1,550. That's great. People like unicorns. And people like hamburgers too, Brianna. That's beautiful. That's the record for the most that's ever been paid for a cake at East Brent. My goodness. Woo, y'all, we got more cakes to sell. I've still got more Glenda On cakes. My goodness gracious. All right. Oh, what happened here? Okay. He's done. Well, he better not raise his hand again then. If he raises his hand, Grady, I'm going to give him the bid. All right? He knows about money. You taught him. Carrot cake with cream cheese, gluten-free. Michelle Grosso did a great job on this cake, all right? Now, you're betting on, this is Leah's mom, who also made a delicious-looking cake. I'm going to start the bidding off at $35. Would you give me $35? This is a carrot cake, $35. Would you give me $40? $40, would you give me $40? Would you give me $40? $45, would you give me $50? $50. $40 is the curtain bid. Would you go $50? $50, would you give me $60? $60, would you give me $75? $75, would you give me $85? $85, would you give me $95? $105. $105, $120. $120. Hey, Grayson, am I listening to him? He's bidding on this cake right here. $120, it's a carrot cake. Michelle Grosso made it. 120, his bid was $120. It's been acknowledged. 120, 150. You've got it right now for one. Ted, you have it for $115? You got it for $115. $115, let me get $120. Who's got $120 for this delicious carrot cake? $120. $120, $115 going once, twice, sold to Mr. Grosso. Smart man. Smart man. All right. I'm coming back. I did that intentionally. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that you can get up and take $115 for Michelle Grosso, bought by Chris Grosso. It was a carrot cake. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need to take a break and go back here and get some of these treats, feel free to do that. Don't worry. You know, there's lots more cakes. There's a lot of treats back there, y'all. If you'll go back there and donate some more money and you can get all the treats you want. Also, if you'd like to, as you leave the building tonight, go and donate $20 back there. You can take many of the different items that are on those tables back there. They're technically only $3 a piece, so if you give a $20 donation, you'll be able to get almost everything on the table, and you're going to want to be able to take that home and snack on that tonight. What a great idea. Go ahead, please, you feel free to do that, okay? You daggum right he did. And it works. They're all $3, but if you buy 5, really they're cheaper. All right. All right, we got a beautiful key lime pie by Miss Leslie Rodriguez. Beautiful key lime pie. It's got milk, almonds, and egg. Sorry, Christian. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me start the bidding off at $25. Would you give me $25 for it? Would you get $25, $25, $30? Would you go $35? Would you give me $40? $40, would you give me $45, $50? $65, $65, $75. Would you go $75, $100? $100, would you give me $125? $125, Mr. Grayson. $125. $125 is the current bid. Would you go $130? $130. Leslie, where are you, Leslie? Raise your hand, wave. Leslie back here made this cake. She's another one of our students. $125 is the current bid. $125 is the current bid. It's a key lime pie. It's a delicious key lime pie, $125. Would you go $130? Would you bid $130 for it? Would you give $130? Would you bid $130 for it? $130, $130, Mr. B.J. Trahan, $135. $135, would you bid $135? Would you give $135 for it? $135, $130 is the current bid. Need $135. Need $135. $130 going once. $130 going twice. Give me $135. Sold to Mr. B.J. Trahan for $130. Give it up for Mr. B.J. Man, these cakes are selling really well, y'all. They're selling really well. I'm very pleased. All right. $130. B.J. Trahan, $130. This is made by Miss Michelle McLemore, and it is a beautiful vanilla pound cake. And boy, I'll tell you what, that thing just looks like it'll crumble right into your mouth and slide right down your throat. It's amazing. Let me start the bidding off at $25. Would you give me $25? $100 right here, Mr. Borowski. $125. Would you bid $125? Would you give $25? $125, $125. $125, $150. $150, $125 is the current bid. Would you give me $150? Would you bid $150? Would you give $150 for it? $150. Would you give me $175? $1 3/4. Mr. McLemore, it's your beautiful wife. You've been married for so long. How could you neglect her by not buying her cake? $175. $200. Would you give me $200? Bid $200. Give me $200 for it. $200 right here, Mr. Sweeney. $225, Mr. McLemore. It's the small price to pay. $225 to you if you want it. $225 if you want it. $225. $250. $250. Would you bid? $250. Mr. Sweeney, that's a beautiful cake over there. $250 right there. $275. $250 is the current bid. Would you give $275? $2 3/4. $275. Would you bid $275? She said no, didn't she? She said don't do it. $250 is the current bid. Would you bid $275? Would you give $275 for it? Bid $275. Need $275. Going once. $250 going twice. $250 sold to Mr. Sweeney. What's next, ladies? Y'all, we are really close to being done. I got to go back to one of these other cakes. $250. $250. $275 would have been the next bid. I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm about to pass out up here. That's good. Okay, let's keep on going. Oh, this is a double entry. It's another blueberry pie from Miss Andrea Duncan. If you missed out on the first one, there's another one. Okay, who bought the first blueberry pie? You could buy another one if you wanted to. Andrea Duncan, it's a blueberry pie. If you like blueberry pie, we're going to start the bidding off at $25. Would you give me $25? Bid $25. Give $25. Would you give me $50? $50. Would you give me $75? Peter said $75. $75. Would you give me $100? $100. Would you give me $125? $125. $125, 100 to Pastor Wave, 125, Scott Duncan, that's his wife's pie. He's smart. He's going to buy that pie, and he's probably going to really enjoy it because I'll tell you what, somebody else already got the other one, so he's got to get that one right there too. Oh, 150. $150. Sorry, Scott, 150, 175 to you. 175, 200. $200 for the blueberry pie. 175 current bid. Would you give me would you give me 200? 175 is what we need, or is what we got. 175 is what we got. We need 200. 175 going once. $195, Mr. Borowski. $200, Mr. Scott. Oh, she threw it out. $200. Ladies and gentlemen, it's $200 to Mr. Scott Duncan right now. She didn't play the guilt trip card at all. $200. $225. $200 is our current bid. Would you go $225? $225. Would you bid $225 for it? $200 going once. Twice. You better sell it to him. Scott Duncan, $200. We got a lot of smart men in this church. A lot of smart men. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a mystery cake because there's no name, and all it says is it's an orange cake. So this is it right here. Zoom in on that, boys. Would you zoom in? Don't spill it there. There we go. Oh, there it is. Looks delicious, but it's a mystery. I don't know who brought it. If you brought this cake, would you stand up? All right, an anonymous orange cake. Would you start the bidding off at $15? $15. $15. Would you go $20? $20. Would you go $25? $25. Would you go $30? $30. Would you go $35? $40. $40. $40. $40. $40. Would you go? You got $35. Would you go $40? $40. You want to bid on that cake? $40 right here. What is your name, ma'am? Maria. Who is your daughter? Nellie. Nellie is bidding $45, right? Was it 45? Did I say 45? $45. Would you go 50? $45 is the current bid. Would you go 50? Anybody go 50? Would you give me 50? Would you bid 54? $45 to Miss Nellie. Is that her name, Nellie? Beautiful name. $45 going once. $50 right here. Would you go 55? Would you go $55? $60. Would you go 60? $55 is the current money bid. Would you go 60? Would you bid 60? Sold to Miss Nellie for $60, for $55. Wonderful job. Beautiful. All right. $55. My apologies. The numbers start to get mixed up in my head. If I say 200 and I meant $5, then don't worry about it. All right. This is a mini fudge cake, another entry by Leslie Rodriguez. And I'm going to start the bidding at $15. It's a mini fudge cake. Would you give me $15? $15, $20. Would you give me $20? Would you bid $20? Give me $20 for this cake right here. It's a mini fudge cake, $20. $25. Would you give me $25? $25. $30. $35. Would you give me $35? $35 right there. $40. $40. $40. Would you give me $50? $50. $60. $60. $70. $70. $80. $80. $90. $90. Would you give me $100? $100. $100. Not $110. $100 is the current money bid. Would you bid $110? Would you give me $110 for it? Bid $110. $110. Would you give me $120? $110 to Mr. Ed Gonzalez. Would you give me $120? $120. Would you give me $120? Bid $120. $130. $130. $140. $140. Would you bid $150? $160. $165. Just give it $165. $175. $180. How about $200? $200, $225. $210. $205. $200. Current bid, $200 money bid. $200 money bid. Would you give me $205? Would you bid $205? Would you give me $205 for it? $200 going once? Twice? Sold to Mr. Ed Gonzalez. $200. Y'all keeping track of all these numbers back here, I hope. Okay. Let me see here. We got a butterscotch apple cake. It's got butter, flour, egg, milk, pecan. Sorry, Christian. Made by our very own Christy Riles. She did sing a beautiful special music. on Easter Sunday. It was glorious. That's the first time she's ever sung a solo here at East Brent, y'all, and now she's baking a cake for you. So you can bid on this cake, starting the bidding off at $100 right here. Would you go $125? $125, would you bid $125? Currently, we are at $100. $125 for this wonderful, wonderful, what is it called again? Butterscotch. Ooh. And apple. $125 current bid is $100. Would you give me $120? $120, would you give me $140? $145. $150. Would you give me $175? Let's go $200. $200, would you give me $225? $225, would you give me $225? $225 current bid is $200. Would you give me $225? $225. $225, would you give me $225? $2.5. $2.5. Would you give me $2.5 bid? Bad baby, get a bad big, get a bad big, beat a bad. Sound like Porky Pig. Would you give me $2.25? $2.5. $2.75. $275. Would you give me $2.75? $2 3/4. See, it sounds less when I say 2 3/4, doesn't it? It's just 2 3/4. $275. Current bid $250. Would you give me $275? $270. $250 going once. Would you give me $275? Anybody current bid $250? Would you give me $275? Going twice? Sold to Mr. Ted Borowski. $250. Beautiful, y'all. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Oh, in the frame, I skipped that too. So we got 13 more cakes, y'all. We're flying through these cakes, and I love it. Our kids are going to go to camp, and it's because of you. I want you to know that, ladies and gentlemen. Give yourselves a hand because our kids are going to go to camp. We know that, and you're going to bless them and help them go there, okay? This is a fresh apple cake. It's got nuts, eggs, and dairy. By Miss Sue Sweeney. All right, Mr. Sweeney. Keep that. I'm going to start the bidding off at $100. $100, $125, $150. Would you go $150, $175? Would you go $175, $175, $175, $200? $200, would you give me $200? $175 is our current bid. Would you give me $200 for it? We've got a $175 money bid. $175 money bid. Would you give $175? Would you give me $180? How about $180? $175 is the current money bid. $175, $175, would you give me $180? Would you bid $180? Would you give me $180 for it? $175 going once. $175 going twice. Last chance. $200 right here in the corner. Would you give me $225? $225, would you bid $225? Would you give me $225 for it? $225, $250. $250 to you. $250. Would you give me $250? $225, $250. Would you give me $275? $275. Would you bid $275 for it? $275, $300. You're out. You sure? Okay, $275. We got one. $275. We've got the current dollar money bid with $275. Would you bid $275? $280. Would you give me $275? $280. $280. Would you give me $280? $275 is our current money bid. $275 going once. $275 going twice. Sold to the McMorrs for $275. $275. Big. No, is that what it sounded like? $275,000? You guys got that money? Because we just sold it to you, apparently. 275, not too. That's funny. Did it really say 275,000? Oh my goodness, y'all! If they're watching online, we're not selling cakes for $275,000. We wouldn't be against it. If you'd like to make a donation, make it out to Duke Buchanan. Okay, we got a chocolate overload cake by Miss Samantha Trahan. This is Hannah's sister and Jenny and BJ's daughter, Samantha Trahan. BJ, I'm talking to you. And we got this chocolate overload cake. Start the bidding at $25. Would you give me $25? Bid $100, Mr. Ted Borowski. 150, 200 right there, 225, 250. Would you give me 250, 275, 300? Would you give me 3 bid? 300, 300, 325, 350. Would you bid 350? 350 for the cake. 325 is our current money bid. 350, 375. Would you give 375? 375, Mr. Hutto. 400, $400 right now. Mr. Hutto's got it for 375. Would you bid 300? Would you bid 400? Would you bid 400, your precious baby girl? $400, would you give me 425, 425, 450. $450, would you give me 450? 425 is our current money bid. Would you give me 450? Would you bid 450? Would you give me 450 for it? $400, $425, excuse me. For the chocolate overload, don't feed any of it to your dog because they'll die. It's poison for them. $425, $450, $425 is the current bid for Mr. Hutto. Once. Going twice, sold to Mr. Hutto for $425. I love it, ladies and gentlemen. You are so generous, and I love it. We are really, really showing our students some love tonight. This is another cake from Sue Swinney. Got nuts, eggs. It's a Kentucky Derby pie. It comes with a mint julep. No, I'm just kidding. It's a Kentucky Derby pie. No, we don't do that here, okay? We are Baptists. We don't do that here. No mint juleps for you or me. All right, we're going to start the bidding off with this Kentucky Derby pie at $25. Would you give me $25.50? Would you give me $50? Would you bid $50 for it? Would you give me $50 for this pie? $25, $50, Mr. Billy. Would you give me $65? $65, would you bid $65? $50 is the current money bid. Would you give me $65? Would you bid $65 for it? $50, $65, Mr. Billy. Would you give me $75? $75 for the Kentucky Derby pie, no mint julep included. $75, would you give me 75? Bid 75, would you give 75 for it? $75, $65 is the current money bid for Mr. Billy. Craig, would you give me $75? $75. There's crosstalk. It's worth every penny. $75 to you if you want it, Miss Barnes. $75, Mr. BJ Trahan. $100, Mr. Billy. How about $85? How about